So today's talk is called Earthbound. And at the time that the title of the talk came to me, I think I had an idea of what the talk was about. And as usual, what ended up happening was, what is this talk about? And so, what in the heck is Earthbound? And so I decided the talk would be Earthbound, or why it is important to know what X is. We'll get to that. So, Earthbound, what does this mean? I mean, I know, I get it. I live here. We live here on the planet. And I think we can agree that we are all here on the earth. We're spiritual beings. We're moving around in what I like to call corporeal Tupperware, soul carriers. And we're having this experience of being human all together, individually, and as one. So, we're here, we're earthbound. Got it. I've also got it that this Tupperware is fragile and magnificent. And also what's inside the Tupperware is fragile and magnificent. And with this whole package deal, we've got some rules that we're bound by and some rules that we're not so bound by. So I'm currently taking 2 classes here at UAA as a student. It's fascinating. And I'm taking algebra for beginners, like beginners, and philosophy at the same time. So on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'm searching for X. And on Wednesdays, I'm trying to figure out why it's important to search. And I have to restrain myself from letting the philosophy kind of bulldoze over the order of operations. It's like, well, why do I need to know what X is? Does X really want to be identified? Can X be identified? Why don't we just let X be? X, the variable. Yes, what is X? And so this is the first of one of the lessons I figured out about being earthbound is paying attention. Paying attention to where things go and how they all fit. So there was this woman who was being tailgated, a man was being tailgated by a woman. This woman was tailgating a man. And the light turned yellow, and so in his wisdom he thought, ooh, I should stop. So he stopped instead of raring through the red. Well, this woman behind him went ballistic. She's flipping him off, she's cursing, she's screaming at him in her car, just gesturing wildly, and all of a sudden a police officer taps on her window. He orders her to exit her car. He has her put her hands up. He takes her to the police station where she's searched, fingerprinted, photographed, and placed in a cell. After a couple hours, a police officer comes down, opens the door to the cell, and escorts her back to the front desk and gives her personal effects back. The arresting officer approaches her and says, ma'am, I'm very sorry for the mistake. It's just I pulled up behind your car when you were blowing your horn and flipping off the guy in front of you and you were cussing. And then I looked at your car and I noticed the Choose Life license plate holder, the What Would Jesus Do bumper sticker, the Follow Me to Sunday School bumper sticker, and the chrome-plated fish. And naturally, I assumed you had stolen the car. We do have our moments of not paying attention. Just recently, Heather ordered this fantastic Spirit Stone magnet for the back of the truck. It's beautiful. And it's like a rubber band to the wrist for me. Because sometimes I can be a little bit eager to get where I'm going. Eager. And I kind of have to remind myself, ooh, magnet. It's like it's like tapping thing. I'm like, magnet, Rachel. Because it's like no cutting people off, no zipping, no road rage, no tailing. Because I've got this magnet on the back that says, hi, I'm a minister and I've got my own spiritual center. Why don't you come visit me? I've got to can't be that woman. So I have to pay attention. So it's magnet. That's how I pay attention. So another lesson of being earthbound is the lesson of patience. And it's important to find that support that we need to stay earthbound and to be patient when we do find that support. And I was happy to find this. It's always there. right for me. So I have little tests for myself, little ways of keeping myself earthbound, the ways of keeping me grounded. And one of them is I wear what I call my spiritual bling. And people tease me about, how many things you're going to add to that necklace. And I'm like, whatever it takes to keep me here, whatever it takes to keep me on the earth. And so my spiritual bling helps me. Agreeing to take algebra and agreeing to try and to not give up is actually a technique for me to stay earthbound. Because I rush. I'm like, oh, I know how to do that. I'm fine. And then I get the wrong answer. And I think, well, why did I get the wrong answer? Because I was rushing. Because I wasn't patient with myself. I wasn't patient enough to trust that algebra is like the floor. It doesn't change. It just is. And I can trust it. I'm working through this with all of you. Just please be patient with me. As I say this, I'm, making sense of it. So there's this great story that many of you have probably heard about, and I'm going to paraphrase it. But it's the person's walking down the street, they fall into a hole. They're sad, they're trapped, it's horrible, they can't get out. Eventually, they do get out, but it's a terrible, long ordeal. The next day, they walk down a street, they see a hole, they fall in the hole. Well, it's still not my fault, because that hole was there. And it's still painful, and it's still horrible, and it's still torturous, but you eventually get out. The next day, you're walking down the street, you see the hole, you fall in the hole. Now it's a habit. Now we know what we're doing. Now it's conscious. Now I need to make a choice of how to get out of the hole and how to avoid it. So the next day, you're walking down the street, you see the hole, you walk around it. And then, of course, the last day, you walk down a different street. This is how the process works. We learn by doing, and we learn by doing again. And so it takes commitment to the learning process. It takes so far we've got paying attention, we've got patience, and we've got commitment. These three things all together make being earthbound a little bit easier, actually, because now we're involved, and now it's a give and take experience. One of my favorite childhood books is The Velveteen Rabbit. Anybody else? Velveteen Rabbit? Yeah, okay, good, awesome. And there's that part in the book, for those of you familiar with it, where the skin horse is telling the Velveteen Rabbit what it means to be real. And how he explains that when you become real, it's a process, and you lose your fur, and your eyes fall out, and your whiskers get thin. And it sounds very painful, and it sounds like something the Velveteen Rabbit's not sure he wants to experience. He wants to be real, but he doesn't want to suffer, and he doesn't want to go through those things because they don't seem so pleasant. But it's a process, and those things are necessary for him to become real. And so it's our perspective on these other things, like algebra, that we have to shift. That in order for me to become real in the way that my goal of a degree is, the fiery hoop is algebra. So, am I willing to walk that? Yes. Again, just saying it out loud with people present helps me remember that I'm going to do it. So this whole thing led me to, but then how did I get to this place in my life? How did I get to this point where I needed to take algebra? How did I get to this point of being me? How did I get here? It went deep. Like suddenly I'm like questioning the nature of the universe. And I started thinking about the movie Made in Heaven. M-A-D-E, Made in Heaven. It was a very tiny movie that came out in the 80s with Timothy Hutton and Kelly McGillis. Pretty unnoticed by many people. It's a great movie about reincarnation. And just very briefly, in this movie, Timothy Hutton is a young man. He dies. He goes to heaven. And in heaven, he sees all these people he knew, his old postman, his aunt. And he meets this beautiful woman, Kelly McGillis, who's a new soul. She's never been down here on Earthbound. And they fall in love, and they get married in heaven, and they're having this great life until Kelly McGillis gets called She's going to get sent. And so Timothy Hutton says, well, if she's going, I want to go. And the agreement made between them was, but you won't know each other. So if you want to go, you can try to go and maybe find each other, but you have until the age of 30. And if at age 30 you have not found each other, you're going to live out your lives without ever meeting. And so it's this beautiful story of people, and they're born in completely opposite circumstances and how their lives intertwine. And it's all about this agreement that we make, because there are people who believe that we agree to these lives before we get here. You know, we get a choice of a few different lifetimes, and we sort of, I used to say, choose the lesser of all the evils, but it was, you know, you choose the lifetime that you want to have. And then you're born and you forget that you chose it. You forget what the plan is. You forget the whole big picture, and which is why it's really hard sometimes. It's hard sometimes to know that there is a big picture because we've forgotten it. But for those of us who agree with this theory, we can then say, wait, there's something larger happening here than just this earthly experience. There's something bigger. And I agreed to it. So in that sense, I don't believe that there's any accidents. I believe that we are coincidencing with God all the time. And yes, spell check really got me on that one. I'm like, coincidencing is a word because I said so. So if we agree to this experience, if we can agree in this moment that we agreed to the experience, then I believe that we accepted the commitment to be here. And then we already know on some inner, deeper, unconscious, subconscious, back of the head, inside way, we know what life was going to be like on the earth. And these kinds of thoughts, that processing really gives me comfort. Because of so many friends, including myself, who've lost people that we've loved this year, to know that we're going to hook up again. We're going to see each other again. We're going to connect again. And that there's this fluidity of coming and going. I did a training with Dan Millman back in 2004. Dan Millman wrote Way of the Peaceful Warrior. He's a great teacher. Teeny little guy. But he was talking about how Earth is the toughest school. That only the toughest souls choose to come here, because this is where the hard lessons are. And he says there's going to be some point where we're going to meet up on the next plane and we're going to be like, man, you remember Earth? That was the toughest school ever. Wow, I'm so glad we all made it through wherever we are next. And so I love that idea. And I think, okay, so when we get to that place, what are the kinds of stories we're going to tell about how we survived? How did we survive this earthbound experience? And there are some people that choose to just blast right on through. They're the ones who say, stuff happens. TGIF, thank God it's Friday, because that's their world. It's this is the world. All this stuff, this earthbound experience, this is it. They're just blasting through life, getting what they can. And then there's some of us who relish this experience. For those of you who've seen The Matrix, it's that character who opts for the steak in The Matrix rather than life in the real world. And that would be me with bacon, that I really do enjoy bacon. And when I eat it, I'm like, oh, I'm so glad I'm human. I'm so glad that I'm having this life experience so I can have this taste in my mouth. It's wonderful. So things like that. There are some who come into this life and every second of it they're going to get what they can get and they're going to keep it. So we have people like Donald Trump. We have people with bumper stickers on their cars that say, those with the most toys win. The ones who are like, mine, on here on Earth, and it's mine and I'm keeping it. That's great, And then there are others who are understanding the sum, that they're understanding the whole concept of you get what you give. So they amass and they circulate. Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, my mom and her husband. They get it, they give it. They get it, they give it. Because they know that this is just for now. And so I was thinking about this when I was in the grocery store on Friday, and I was thinking about people who are here on the planet who are struggling with being here on the planet for whatever reason. And I was thinking about this as I was pondering what flavor gelato I was going to buy. The ice cream, not our cat. Our cat's name is Gelato. And I heard these two women meet up behind me, and they clearly knew each other from somewhere. They're, oh, hi, how are you doing? And they're having this lovely reunion. And one of them starts to tell a story about what happened to her in the grocery store the day before. Apparently, she shops in this store pretty regularly. And some gentleman came up to her and said, can you tell me where the laundry detergent is? And she said, I don't really know. I don't get laundry detergent here. And he said, well, you work here, don't you? And she said, no, actually, I don't work here. And he said, well, I see you here all the time. And she said, well, I shop here all the time, but I don't work here. And he said, oh, you're one of those people who doesn't have a job. Right, so I'm at the gelato thing. Choosing my gelato. This conversation's happening behind me, and I'm thinking, whoa. And then I heard her friend say, well, what did he mean by that? And she said, I asked him. I said, what do you mean by those people? And he looked at her and he said, Mexicans. And I turned from the gelato and went, you are kidding me. Are you kidding me? And I see the woman, she's got her cart, she's got a crutch in her cart. And she looked at me and she went, I'm not. I was astounded. She said, I was born in Jersey. I don't know what he's talking about. And so she said to him, sir, I don't know what you're going, and she said he went off about immigrants and coming to this country and the military and no one supporting and on and on. And she's like, I served in the Marines. I don't know why are you? And so finally she said, you know what, sir, you're really setting a bad example for the people around you and the children who are hearing you. And he's like, what kids? Well, there were 4 kids standing behind him who were horrified at what they were hearing. And so she engaged with him for a few minutes, trying to point out why this was unhealthy. And of course, he wasn't having any part of it. And she was proud of herself that she didn't make use of her crutch as a teaching tool. I was proud of her as well. And so I was like, well, wow. I said, I'm really glad. Thank you for, doing the work you're doing in the world. And so she asked my name, and I told her who I was and explained who I am. And she said, oh, well, then you can work with me on praying for him. And I said, exactly. That's our job. And I thought, for me, it's easy. I didn't confront this guy. I didn't have that moment. For her to say, oh, you can pray with me for him, knocked me out. It's like, there it is. That's somebody who's earthbound and yet knows what's going on. Dealing with the gentleman who is earthbound and is just stuck. This is his experience. And so, yes, we do have to pray for him. But we don't have to. It's a good idea. And it's not praying like, oh, God, please let him change, or God, please change him. It's just praying for an opening, praying for an enlightenment, praying for more people like that woman to meet him, praying for more people to say to him, whoa, you know what? You really can't talk like that to people. It's not okay. Because that change will happen for him on his own, with our loving influence happening around him, maybe not at or to him. Does that make sense? Awesome. So I saw this and thought of this woman. This is a quote from the man who wrote The Alchemist as well as The Pilgrimage and then this book. A life is never useless. Each soul that came down to earth is here for a reason. And there's a talk that I've done before called Share Your Peace. And it's P-I-E-C-E, not peace, like peace, love, and understanding. And I talk about putting together a jigsaw puzzle and how frustrating it is when you put together an entire jigsaw puzzle and there's one piece missing. Just one, in the sky or in the building. And the whole puzzle looks great except that one piece is missing. That's us. When we don't show up for this experience that we're having, this earthbound experience, when we don't show up fully for it, we're that missing piece from the great mosaic that Spirit is creating. And so each of us is here. We're here for a reason. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. I don't know that Spirit actually makes waste. There are never too many trees. There's never too much ocean. There might be too much rain, but that's a whole other subject. So like that woman in the grocery store, we each get to experience our reason for being, our reason for awakening, and our assistance in awakening others. And to be able to say, I'm earthbound, and, again, like the Matrix, what an awesome illusion this is. How beautiful this is. Look at all this great stuff we have. None of it's real, but look how cool it is. And these are the folks, we are the folks, and others like us, who are walking this high watch, keeping that, what I like to call the helicopter perspective of life, is not being mired in it, but pulling ourselves up to that helicopter high watch of, oh, that's the situation I'm in. Oh, it's a communication thing, or, oh, it was a misunderstanding, or, oh, I need to ask forgiveness or give forgiveness. We still get hurt. We still stumble. We still have our moments. But we get through them easier. And so it's, when we have sadness, when we experience sadness or anger or jealousy, it's easier to move through it because there's something larger going on. This isn't the whole moment. This is the tricky part, and we've talked about this before. So once we do awaken, though, we have that personal responsibility, accountability thing to be awake and to not say, well, yeah, I know what's going on, but I'm just going to go over here and hide in my corner. You know, it's being awake to knowing that the entire experience is for our good. So we come back to algebra. So algebra, much to my surprise, is not a living, breathing thing that is maniacally laughing as it tricks me. It's not. Algebra doesn't change. It's completely the same all the time. The answer is the answer. And so I'm the one tricking myself into feeling stupid or that I can't. It's me. Right? It's me. It's not algebra, right? I am right. I'm just checking. I'm reflecting. But it works for me to blame algebra. It works great for me to say, I got this answer and I'm right. Algebra's wrong. It works for me because I get to be right, which I love. And so the more I get to be right, the more I circle around what's true. My seminary classmate, Tina, has a dog named Roscoe, and Roscoe goes on many adventures. And on Facebook, we get to experience all of Roscoe's adventures. And she shared this one little story about Roscoe. She called it, Is It Mine? And she said, early this morning, when the light was barely there, Roscoe spied a brown spot in the lawn looking just like a chipmunk. He raced out, barking as he ran to address the critter, only to find out it was his own poop. He snorted, he peed on it, and he continued about his business. And I thought, you know, we bark at our own poop all the time without recognizing what it really is. And I was like, wow, that's a really profound statement. You know, yes, like, can we learn how to pee on it and walk away is the big question. And this was the answer. Out of the cacophony of random suffering and chaos that can mark human life, the life artist sees or creates a symphony of meaning and order. A life, here's the kicker, a life of wholeness does not depend on what we experience. Wholeness depends on how we experience our lives. I don't know, it was big for me. It seemed big for me. Absolutely. A life of wholeness does not depend on what we experience. Wholeness depends on how we experience our lives. So most of us who have awakened to this earthbound experience recognize the holes in the street now. And we can either walk around them or we can choose different streets. We're getting there. We're getting there. And so commitment, paying attention, and patience. And so I wanted to close with this because I was thinking about these three things and how can I make them concrete in my own mind and then share them with you. And I was thinking regarding commitment, Vincent van Gogh shared a beautiful quote from his letters. He said something beautiful in his letters. I'm going to share the quote. It's raining. My mind's not working. Vincent van Gogh lived very passionately in everything he did. And he said, I put my heart and soul into my work and have lost my mind in the process. And when I first read that, I was like, oh my God, that's tragic. That's so sad. And then I thought, no, it's not. It's not. He lost his mind, his earthbound, trapped mind in the process and created amazing pieces of art. Every time I look at Starry Night, I see that man's passion right there. So commitment. Paying attention. Rabbi Menachem Schneerson shared that the Baal Shem Tov taught that a soul may descend from the place high in the heavens down into this world for 70 to 80 years just to do a favor for another. I'm going to start paying more attention so I can find those people and so I can see if I'm one of those people. And then regarding patience, one of my favorite quotes that I'm sure is familiar to many of you is Rainer Maria Rilke. Be patient towards all that is unresolved in your heart and try to love the questions themselves. Do not seek the answers which cannot be given you because you would not be able to live them. The point is to live everything. Live the questions now. And so there it is. We get to be here now. We get to commit to being here. We get to allow patience to guide us. And we get to pay attention to ourselves and others who are earthbound with us, walking this path. And we can do it. We can be earthbound and awake at the same time. I'm in. Are you in? Awesome. Then let's pray. Taking a deep breath. Taking a deep breath of oxygen that is another proof that we are here earthbound, and yet what it does in our bodies and how it feels to us is definite proof that Spirit lives and moves and breathes and thrives within us, as us, through us. God is acting right now. It's the activity that is causing us to be present, bringing us together, and bringing together with us all those who are not present. Their consciousness is connected in with us right now. This is how the activity of God works. And so as we hold these stones in our hand this morning, this experience of earthbound comes very true. This stone, each stone that we are holding, each stone that we have in our hands is evidence that we are here. And yet it's evidence of an appearance. For what we can get from this stone and give to this stone is the real true reality of who we are. It's the real truth of Spirit in action. And so I'm asking this morning for myself and for each person here to give to this stone whatever it is we might be carrying that isn't helping us, that isn't serving us, that isn't lifting us, that isn't loving to other people, that isn't lifting other people. We're here to give and to receive. And so whatever it is in this stone that is being carried that can go, let it go. Whether it's a health concern for self or others, whether it's financial concerns, whether it's what do I do with my life, why am I here, give it to the stone and let it go and make space for Spirit to do its work through us, as us. Healing whatever needs healing, revealing the truth of whatever needs to be revealed, knowing that God is doing this all the time and we get to just plug into it, connect into it, and receive. Receive. It was shared with me this morning. The most important part of this circulation of the giving and receiving is to be open to receive to receive the prayer, to receive the good, to receive the love. For then it flows through us and back out circulating. So I give thanks this morning for those who are here. I give thanks for this service in all its perfection and imperfection. And I give thanks for this entire experience called life on earth. It's so good. And I'm going to enjoy each and every moment of it. And at the same time, not attached to any of it. Spirit guiding us, Spirit lifting us. I'm so grateful. So grateful. So it is. Amen. Ashe. Amen.